It's not. My water's the fanciest thing.
You got your Fiji water?
My
Okay.
Fiji water. But hey, so guys, everyone that is gonna watch these clips, I have Alan Weiss with Preferred Physical Therapy. He is the owner, out in Fleming Island, in multiple locations, and you just opened another location.
We did a small office in Riverside Hospital up there in St. Vincent's. So.
That's actually my favorite hospital.
Oh, is it really?
It is.
We've had a good relationship with those guys for a long time. You know,
Okay.
they're key members of our sports medicine program that we run. You know, they help pay for all the athletic training services.
Wow.
You know that all of the Clay County schools receive. So, you know, so like I said, we've had a good relationship with them for a long time.
Nice. Tell us a little bit about Preferred and how it all got started, the origin of how you got started.
So, you know, Preferred Physical Therapy, you know, is our DBA name, and my partner is Justin Weldon, his father
Okay.
is Dan Weldon.
Okay.
He had the first outpatient physical therapy clinic in Clay County in
Holy cow.
1970, whatever.
Okay, I'm not around. At this
Yeah,
point.
exactly, me neither. You know, and you know, so about 15 years ago, Justin and I got together and we opened the Fleming Island office, and
Nice.
you know, we kind of grew from there.
Wow.
So, as Justin took that over, I joined him as a partner, and away we went. So
How
now
did
we're
you-
5 offices strong.
How many?
5.
5. Wow. And you guys cover a lot.
We do.
You guys-
try to do a lot of things.
And you offer a lot of things. You provide a lot of free services to the county. But how did you get started in the world of physical therapy? What led Alan down that road?
You know, for me, it was probably somewhere between my sophomore and junior year at Florida State University. I was a biology major and a chemistry minor, and I was really thinking about taking the MCAT. And you know, to be honest with you, I just didn't want to go to school that long. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, you're doing the math, and by the time you get out of med school and fellowship and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'll be 35 years old before I can go where I want, you know, and
Wow.
I wasn't too keen on that, and so I started to volunteer at a PT clinic and loved it, and
Went from there.
just went from there.
Wow. Florida State.
Yes, that's where I'm a Knoll.
No. I don't have a specific college. Like I've never gravitated towards like Miami. Like this is my school, or
Okay.
Florida State, that's my school, or whatever. I've never been, and I think it's partly due because I never got the college experience right off bat.
Okay.
Right, so I was never like, oh, I'm gonna indoctrinate myself into all these things.
No one really reeled you in.
Yes, yeah. So my pathway is obviously a little bit different, but I'm definitely I love the UNF. I think UNF has a thing. They've grown exponentially over the past 10, 15 years. We had Irvin Lewis on recently. He is the deputy athletic director.
I did watch that episode. Yeah.
And
very good.
he's awesome, man. And he's just dropped a lot of knowledge in the world of some of the recruiting aspect, really expectations.
Oh yeah,
Like-
he certainly seems like he's an asset to that program. for
Yes. And from your perspective, and when you see hundreds of athletes on a weekly, not just I wouldn't even go on a daily basis, but for you, like on a weekly basis, and you're treating every single sport, every single type of body structure, you're going through the whole realm. What has been the most common denominator, if any, like amongst injuries that you see? So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
If it's the one thing that I currently see from ages 10 or let's say 12 to 14 is hamstring or low back, whatever it is there a common thread amongst what you're seeing now versus maybe say 5 years ago?
I think that, probably if you want to draw one thread among, name the injury and it won't matter, it's the exposure rate, it's the lack of cross training, the sport specific, one sport year round with minimal breaks.
Yes.
I just think that, the conversation I have with parents all the time is, because they ask the same question, why has this happened, and I tell them, when you use the same muscles the same way over and over and over, eventually something breaks. That's just the way it is.
That's right.
And to try to get them to, cross train, just one season swim, swim competitively,
Right.
or do this, do anything else, it's crazy. And the idea of an off season,
it's a struggle.
Yes, it is definitely a struggle to sell, for sure.
Well, it was a struggle for Giancarlo. It was a struggle for him. But it was also, he felt like his end goal is college soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are they playing at that time? No. Well, then I'm not.
That's the way it should be.
Right. I'm going to take this kind of off-season approach. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to try to dial in on my diet, a kid, whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Sure. As best they can.
As best they can. And then I'm just going to focus on academics and figure out the rest from there. So he played his freshman year, and then he was like, I didn't get a break at all. And again, we are a massive component. Like, hey, if you are only doing this sport, we've tried baseball. Like, I want you to play baseball. I don't want to play baseball, Dad. Come on. I'm like, all right. Well, then you have to do strength and conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to balance those out.
Absolutely. I agree.
We at one point, prior to your son, by the way, full disclosure, people, Alan and myself, we are parents of soccer players. They're on the same team, and Alex Weiss is my son. Is goalkeeper for our local soccer club. And by the way, always a huge fan of Alex.
I'll tell him.
I doubt, because they're not going to listen to this.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
It has no
We can say
bearing
all
at
the
all.
good things about him, and they'll never know.
They'll never know. But as soon as we say eat your vegetables or something, we're horrible. Lord, what was I getting at? I was thinking about vegetables. We made Giancarlo. So prior to Alex coming on, it was about 3 years ago. The keeper didn't come to the tournament. There was a showcase tournament, didn't come, and his coach at the time looked at him and said, "Hey, you're going into goal." And he was, kind of freaked out, but he was also somewhat excited. And unfortunately, I was not present to watch that specific game, but my wife was on the edge of her seat, obviously just losing her mind over his anxiety, I'm sure. And it was a learning lesson for him, because I said, why don't you go to goalkeeping as well, just to balance things out. You're not going to, yes, you strength train once a week in season or whatever.
Right.
But use your hands. Go, because I couldn't even get him to play basketball or baseball. I couldn't do anything else.
Use your hands. Yeah,
use your hands. Just use your hands. Like, you have hand-eye coordination, you have all of these other things, so why don't you you're always using your foot. Like, let's use feet, let's use hands. And he did that for like 2 seasons, and then they were like, hey, no.
We need you on the field.
We need you on the field,
Yeah.
so please focus on the field. So, the cross-training is a big thing.
Oh, 100%. I just think that's, when you're, especially if you combine, kind of what we did in December, getting ready for a quote-unquote showcase tournament in North Carolina, and most of those kids are still playing school ball. If Alex wasn't a keeper, he would have never been going to both school training and then club training in the same day.
Right.
I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And I think, we still have, we had a few injuries that, I'm sure that was related to it. That's just kind of the way it is. But, being a keeper, I guess, he can get away with a little bit more because the demands are less.
Yes, that's right.
And so we felt comfortable on most days if there wasn't homework.
Yeah.
Letting him go to both, but I was pretty clear.
How do you have that conversation with him? Like, how are you as dad? Because your dad, PT, right? And you get the whole gist. Mm-hmm. How are you having the same conversation? I want to know if it's any different than mine.
It is. It's funny when they. The dynamics are definitely different in the household. When things get pushed my way, that I have to try to be as objective as possible.
Right.
Right now, Alex is trying to run track and play soccer.
Okay.
And obviously schedule-wise, it's tough.
Yes.
And going into this weekend, with what was supposed to be 3 soccer matches.
Yes.
I was like, okay, well, no track practice on Friday.
Right.
We are not, we're not going to run again. Even though you're the keeper, again, demands are different.
Correct.
Certainly, if he's a field player, I don't know if we can get away with it. But he wants to try to do both. He knows that the window is pretty small for as he, with also college soccer aspirations, that he's going to have to really become laser focused in the very near future. But he wants to try to do both. So we try to support him on it and load management. And he's been very, very good. Hydration wise, taking some advice, doing some mobility and foam roller, different things to help keep his legs as fresh as possible. So he's kind of bought in.
Good. Yeah, man. Well, Alex does have the qualities though. I think he's got the athletic qualities. He's got the IQ. He's we're definitely fans, right, of Alex and the Weiss.
I will tell you, I never he has worked so hard.
Yes.
To accelerate his again, having never been a full-time keeper until these past couple years. He has lived at the soccer fields, eaten up any information that his coaches have.
He made a save the other day, and I was like, that's a quality
save. Yeah, he can, like I said, and sometimes he surprised me. Now, again, I'm not, the parent of a goalkeeper. I think that's probably the worst thing ever. At least that's what I feel like.
No, I was a goalkeeper growing up.
So yeah,
I know, right? And I can imagine the anxiety that parents have, and then the blame, right? That's your kid, dude. Your kid messed up, right?
Yeah. In the meantime, something happened in the offensive third with a turnover.
That's right.
But not a lot of people.
But they're not going to see it that way.
No, definitely not.
No, but the anxiety of being a goalkeeper, even when the ball is 2/3 down, away from you, you still have this little bit of anxiety, this is going to come back to me really quick. I think he does a good job of reading some of those things, right? Kind of reading the field, and but it's fun watching them grow up and watching them play and watching the dynamics amongst the kids.
Oh, 100%.
It's crazy.
Because they're all better at it. They, again, even this weekend, I know the results weren't exactly what we wanted, but you could definitely see the growth. I mean, I felt like, for the, really the first time in a long time, I felt like we had some good ideas in the offensive third, and things were different. And for stretches of those games, especially the last game, we were the better team.
Yes, agreed. Staying on soccer, you have a vested interest in the sport, but you have also trained the elite of the elite, right?
Yes.
You've gone from high school 8th graders, right? You see those all the time, and then we are now in Morgan Bryans and Leah Godfreys of the world, where these girls are bananas. They're great at what they do.
They're amazing, yeah.
They're gifted, they're talented, and they are getting the best treatment from you, period. So how is seeing the difference between those two players, those two type of style players, and then how they're being trained,
I think, you try to treat them, all. Some you have to drag across the finish line, and some you have to hold the reins tighter, where they try to get too far out in front of you, but those two in particular, and there are others, but when you combine, work ethic with natural God-given ability, and
genetically freaked,
that internal fortitude to really want it, that's what they bring to the table. When we were rehabbing, Leah off of her ACL, Louis couldn't stop shaking my hand, and I'm like, Louis, I just pointed her in the right direction.
Right.
That is really, just kept her between the bumpers as we moved forward, and she just destroyed it.
Yes. She seems very intrinsically motivated.
Well, 100%. Yes. Though, on the outside it may not look like it, because she's always calm, cool, and collected, but on the inside, that fire burns very,
Yes,
very bright.
that is one thing about her that I've always noticed, is that she's very self-reserved. She's not a big talker. I think that her, specialty beyond soccer is she I'll just watch Netflix. That's her thing. Right? Just watch Netflix.
Yeah, no, like I said, some God-given gifts there. With Morgan, there's different challenges. Whereas when she's getting medical advice from U.S. Soccer and then from the Chicago Red Stars,
and those are conflicting.
And she's all over the country. So and certainly you ask 10 people their opinion about a certain injury, you're going to get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
So you don't really know what to do, and you're not in the same place for very long. So it gets to be hard. So she's really found her sweet spot about what she knows about her body and how she's going to train, and which has certainly translated to her most healthy stretch that she's had in a while.
Yeah, she is healthy. She's back playing. She's doing the whole thing. But you brought up a great point. When you have a medical board or medical advisor, when you're at that level, or they want you to rehab a certain way, and then you're finding 5 other people, they're telling you 5 different things, or maybe the same thing, but they're going to do it the different way. How do you kind of cipher and swim through all that BS? Because
it was a process. We went through that particularly, with a chronic hamstring injury. It like I said, it was tough, and I think to Morgan's credit. And it was a gamble, but right before that last World Cup, she took, I think it was 8 or 9 weeks where she kind of, removed herself from national team activities and said, I'm going to Florida and I'm going to be in one place. And now we were in constant contact with the U.S. soccer people, and they outlined a lot of the program that we followed for her, and then they came halfway through to test her. I guess they're just checking my work, I guess, but whatever. That was one of the bravest things I've ever seen anybody do. She basically
went against the grain a little bit.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And I think really since that time she's, like I said, she's really found her sweet spot, and and that kind of thing. But I think that was really where she's like, enough is enough.
Right.
I can't keep getting all of these opinions and trying all of these things without doing anything for any length of time to get myself well.
Well, the thing is that you've developed and established a trust-based relationship with her, and she's like, I trust you, take over. I'm going to remove myself from soccer. You do you. I'll follow some of the things.
Morgan's never. Morgan always has input. She's
okay.
She's got her hands. She's definitely got her hands in, and there's a lot of conversations going back and forth about what she wants to get out of certain things, and how how we're going to proceed. But
right.
But again, she knows when to listen, and when I have some good ideas, and
just trust me.
And really,
trust me.
And I think it's. And it's probably a good thing, sometimes we'll fight like brother and sister, I swear to God, but that's just how we do it,
But that's the dynamics of the relationship that works. You couldn't do the same thing with Leah or the other kids that come in. So I can imagine, again, dynamics are different. Give me one, have you ever had Fit Aid or a Life Aid?
What?
I'll show you.
Okay.
I'll show you real quick. These are like what they call like functional beverages.
Okay.
So I'll bring you. This is nothing but vitamins.
Okay.
One's a lemon cayenne, and the other is a citrus melody. So all of them have like branched chain amino acids, and these are just. I'll drink one, either in the middle of a podcast, or I'll drink one right after a workout.
Okay.
Because of the vitamins, and then I will take. It has some aminos, but I like them. So if you want one, please feel free to have one. But I'm going to crack one of these open. And
these look awesome. I'm a turmeric fan.
Turmeric, yes. Well, again, turmeric blends in here. Isoleucine, arginine. So there's tons of great stuff in here, and I'm not a huge proponent of just like there's Celsius's and those are the quote unquote healthier versions. A monster, I'll even take a monster, but I'll do it before like a workout.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm utilizing what it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of we're just drinking them.
To get
Just,
something done, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
how
you drink those to get through the workday?
long?
Yes. Alan's coming in for a podcast. I better get a monster.
Yeah, I need a life aid. Let me throw me a ring there. But yeah, no, I think that how you handle, not you, how people handle athletes is always going to be different, and there's going to be a wide variety of trainers and doctors and chiros that they have like this vision of this is what it is.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
How are you broadening or keeping like this is what works and we've been doing this, and or is it like, hey, this is my scope, but I know that there's a wide range of things out there that work. Are you finding yourself utilizing different tools more now, or are you just kind of how is like what care? Well, obviously that's a loaded question because I'm saying we'll say hamstring, right? We'll just go off of Morgan. Let's say chronic hamstring injury. What would be your approach in necessarily tools and treatment?
So it's definitely evolved, over the years, and certainly, you have to, from just the broadest of perspectives, you have to align yourself with people of like mind,
Right.
So when you're having, clinical conversations, everybody's kind of moving in the same direction. And then, as far as tools, treating hamstrings, chronic hamstring issues, is, like the way I explain it to a patient, is okay. So, your hamstring muscle is like this. When you have a hamstring strain, you're basically tearing some of the fibers. So naturally, with a torn hamstring, it won't be 100% as strong. I said, and you get stuck in this yo-yo, and this is where they become chronic, where you rest, it feels better, and then you go
do it again.
To sport.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're putting 100% of the load on something that's, say, 80% as strong because the muscle fibers are still torn or not fully healed yet. So, and then all of a sudden you re-injure it. I said, so we have to do all the things that bridge the gap between that 80 and 100% to allow you to return to play safely.
How in the gap between how are you loading or unloading? What would be the mechanisms for that to get you back to the 100%?
Yeah, so and it's just a different time frames for everybody. Severity of the injury plays a role. We try our best to establish normal length compared to the other side first. And then we start to progressively load from there.
Okay.
And then with obviously from the simple stuff to eccentric strengthening to explosive.
Right.
In a controlled environment.
Taking them through phases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And taking them as far as we can within our four walls,
right,
before we introduce them to the uncontrolled world, soccer practice.
The soccer practice,
yeah.
The uncontrolled environment.
So, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think, but you also get them, you've opened up those four walls just a little bit, and you've gotten into preferred sports performance. So
yes.
now you can kind of control the environment just a little bit more.
100%. Yes.
Right? So it's like, you get to say, okay, hey, well, you're going to go right back out to the wilderness. You're going to go do something you're not supposed to do, but stay in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
Try to do this at least once a week so we can monitor, so we can continue load management and figure out, are you on the right path, and trying to do those things. ACL injuries are, to me, at all time. I mean, they're still climbing.
Definitely, yes. Definitely the thing I'm most passionate about, yes.
Have you don't have it, like, you've never personally experienced?
No.
Okay,
that was just something that very early in my career back in the 1990s, when we were working with high schools, I noticed in my clinic at the same time I had 3 girls from 3 different teams, and they were the star players. They weren't, they were athletic and fit and strong, and they all tore their ACL, and I became, very interested, and particularly on the female side.
Yeah.
Okay, why are the girls getting this way more than the guys? And that's how, that's what piqued my interest.
Okay.
So I started to do some, some continuing education courses, and learning about the different things that we now know are risk factors,
Correct.
That play a role.
Yeah.
And some of them we can change, some of them we can't. It's just the way God made them.
That's right.
But we work on what we call modifiable risk factors.
Okay.
And we go from there. And that's always part of, for us, that's always part of somebody's ACL rehab, whether we can get paid for it or not. We will always finish with what it's called sports metrics. It's
yes.
an ACL prevention program. So we do that at the tail end of everybody's ACL rehab to try to mitigate that risk. Because unfortunately, once you tear your ACL once, you're now forever lumped in this group where you're now at a greater risk to re-tear that one and tear the other side. That's just the way it happens.
You brought up the point of I'll go back to genetics and we'll go to gender first.
Okay.
So gender, the female obviously has a much wider hip. The ACL is in a much more narrow notch there, and then hormonally, those cycles affect their tendons and ligaments.
100%, yes.
I don't know if they're not putting that together. Obviously, in their head, they're like, you know what? I think it's my cycle.
Yeah,
right.
And it's hard, and it's really hard to quantify what they do believe there's a link there, but it is so hard for to talk to somebody and say, where were you on your cycle when you tore your ACL? It's a hard, it's not exactly what they're thinking about.
That's very right. So. Yeah, but there is such a, but the thought was there's so many factors that go into it. It's not just this thing that happened. Brandon, who is one of our trainers, tore his ACL just recently.
What was he doing?
He plays rugby for UNF.
Oh, okay.
So he, something physical.
Yes, yeah.
And he made a cut, and when he made the cut, the leg that was extended, the other opponent came in and low chopped him, hit him, tackled him, whatever it was, and the rest is history. And he saw Dr. Bates, and Bates was like, yeah, this is it. So go to preferred, knock out your.
I thought he was with us. Yeah. I was like, okay. I was like, I think I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. So he did his. He's doing his pre-surgery stuff there.